standards, processes, and procedures for mechatronics designs. And that's going to be with SOLIDWORKS Composer and Visualize. We've got assembled a team today to help show off this functionality. That includes Nick Busateri, as well as Dave Janicki. And my name is Mark Talbot. I'll be here to answer questions as well. I'm the electrical AE at Fisher Unitech. So I want to do a very brief introduction to the electrical suite. Essentially, we have SOLIDWORKS Electrical Schematic as well as SOLIDWORKS PCB. Those are both standalone applications, so you don't need the mechanical environment in order to run them. However, both environments can also seamlessly collaborate and communicate with the mechanical environment. So you're looking at one data set of information. You can design from both platforms underneath the SOLIDWORKS platform. And essentially that allows you to realize a lot of benefits with workflow. You can also incorporate better design outputs. And that's part of what we want to focus on today is some additional tools once you get your information into the mechanical space. So your electrical, whether it's your electrical routes, your filled out panels for designing, or even your printed circuit boards and their enclosures. So with that, I'd like to pass things off to Nick to show you Composer.
All right, thanks, Mark. So I'll be your presenter to this on this webcast on the Composer side of things. My name's Nick Busateri. I'm just kind of like you guys out there, but my position with Fisher Unitech is an application engineer. I've been with Fisher 5+ years now. I also have 10+ years in manufacturing and design experience. Of course, bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from WashU, and 18 certifications, of course, in Composer and everything else that we get. So our agenda here, guys, is first off is let's define some design challenges that you guys run into for your technical communication that you guys do, and then let's see what kind of unified interactive platform Composer can do for you, and then kind of a small demonstration of the software called SOLIDWORKS Composer and the kind of output you can get from that. And then I'll lead into SOLIDWORKS Visualization, which is the part on where you can take these objects and turn them into very photorealistic images. So let's discuss a little bit about the design challenges that you guys may run into. So, when it comes to mechanical design, are they disconnected from your tech pub department? Meaning that it seems like mechanical design is on their own island, and then marketing and maybe even your technical communication department is on their own island too. So there's always seems to be this big disconnect between the two. Another thing is a lack of modern tools for technical publication or animations even. So, maybe you're just continually using maybe Word document over and over. You're walking out, taking actual pictures with your cell phone or a camera of some type and inputting those into a Word doc. Well, with that, you have to kind of, what I say is you kind of babysit the situation and you have to update things manually as you go along, right? And lastly here is it's a lot of wasted time at the end of the design process instead of during the design process. And that's where Composer comes into play and says you can do all of this from the beginning, and any changes that are made, you update as you go. So in terms of interactive technical communication here, Composer itself can basically put out all these formats here. So from like animations and interactive content, operational procedures, parts lists and guides. It has a nice online experience that'll output an HTML file or a vector graphics image, and it actually has a live, or should I say, an actual 3D rotate model point of view that you can use with SOLIDWORKS Online, or SOLIDWORKS Composer, I should say. And then, of course, the authoring perspective of setting things up using the tool. And then the output of a, let's say, a Word document of putting in the images that are outputted from Composer itself. So let's see a demonstration of that here. So this is the actual Composer software opened. As you can see at the top, it actually has little ribbon tools, just like anything with SOLIDWORKS, right? And if you go through, you have, all these little ones, and then there is a PDM solution within SOLIDWORKS Composer. So you can check in, check out, see change states, so on and so forth. So what I'm doing here is I'm just basically kind of giving you a preview of these pre-existing, I guess you could say, views that I've made. And just by simply double-clicking on them, I'm activating them. But I'm also going to put this particular view into animation or live mode. And as you can see, I clicked on these little tiles at the bottom, and it actually goes to that actual saved view. So you can actually test to see how well this thing works within the actual software itself. And just by simply, again, double-clicking on, going through this, again, these are pre-made views that have been done. They were very easy to make. We're just bringing in the CAD data from SOLIDWORKS. And as you can see here, kind of blowing away the actual wall of that was on there, we get these rich, nice, interactive views that you can actually eventually drop into, let's say, a Word document. Okay. So also under the Assembly tab, it shows all of the meta properties that are brought in. So basically all of the actual file names of each part are brought in, and therefore that would show up in like a bill of material. So switching to, let's say, an animation view, let's see how you could do an animation within Composer here. So all I did simply here was I just took the views that I made and dropped them right on the timeline there. It was that simple. Hit the play button and let it go. And then from there, let's see the result of, let's say, an MP4 or an AVI file. So as you can see, it just recorded all of those little key shots that were on that timeline. And we saw like a front, top, right, bottom. So imagine showing this to your guys on the shop floor or even on an online experience. Now with this Myomo arm here, this whole little assembly, this control module here, you can even do exploded views. Change it to like a tech pub look where everything's in a black and white outline look. Put in bill of materials, and if you fall on certain items of the bill of material, it actually highlights that, and that's actually what will show in the vector graphic image output also. So we're just kind of progressing through here, showing the left, top, right view of the actual circuit board, and then concluding off with the Myomo arm assembly. And also, we could also do a timeline here for an animation. So we'll put it into animation mode. And again, all I did was just took the existing views I made, dropped them on the timeline on certain times, and it was that easy to create an actual little video of this. And then to show the end result of this. So again, we're zooming in on the module, doing a nice exploded view. So again, like I said earlier, imagine using this with your people on the shop floor. You could save these out and maybe show, like, maybe there's a language barrier on the shop floor to where it's way easier just to use these little videos using SOLIDWORKS Composer to communicate what needs to be done for something to go together or to be pulled apart or anything like that. The last is we're focusing on strictly the control cabinet here itself. So the door panel, you can actually add little notes to the door panel indicating what each of those components are, and then we have these detail view you could put on that. And of course our nice tech pub look, right? So we have a bill of material, and then going in with the actual cabinet itself and the actual lines that show explode lines output. So you're saving all of these images out as either PNG or JPEG images that you'll put into a Word document, And then you can if any changes are made, you can actually update all of those images automatically within the actual Word document. So you're not doing everything at the end, right? So under the workshop tab here, what we're showing here is there's this technical illustration workshop, and this is where we're showing the actual output of the HTML file or vector graphic image here. So this is kind of a little preview here. So again, this is the HTML output or vector graphics image, right? And so let's talk about the actual key benefits that hopefully you saw using SOLIDWORKS Composer. So first, right off the bat, so both mechanical design and your technical publication department can stay connected. So no more of this disconnection between, or you guys are on your own islands and you're just kind of passing over the cubicle wall when you're done. You can stay connected using SOLIDWORKS Composer by basically mechanical design would tell your tech pub department to update the model. You simply go into Composer, click update, and it updates all the views to the latest changes that were done in mechanical design. You can quickly and easily create visual assets for your assembly instructions, product manuals, or any other technical or marketing communication material. Update your documents as the mechanical design made changes, just like I said in the beginning. Create technical documentation earlier instead of at the end of your project. And then, of course, lowering costs and decrease in time to market. So again, like I said earlier in the very beginning, I'm your presenter, Nick Pizzateri. And we're going to lead off, guys, into, this is the showing the kind of technical publication point of view of making manuals or animation. Let's lead into now with SOLIDWORKS Visualize of seeing those rich, realistic images. Dave, are you up there?
I am. Thanks, Nick. Let me take the ball here. Can you pass it over? Okay, so again, as Nick was kind of alluding, I'm Dave Janicki. I'm actually an application engineer based here out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. So working with SOLIDWORKS, PDM, obviously Visualize, and kind of a lot in the product portfolio. So really want to kind of just walk through, you've built these models up, you have those fully blown assemblies. Now, maybe I want to get a prototype, but instead of maybe making a physical prototype, I want to have the ability to just kind of create that image and see what it would potentially look like. So what that's going to be used with is with Visualize. So really going to walk you through what that interface looks like, kind of talk about what that process would be to build it, and why you would even want to do it in the first place. So big portion of it, it's a very easy to use interface. The whole point, again, kind of as I was talking about, is we're getting that prototype without actually physically building it. So that's a lot of reasons why people even go down this route of, hey, what is this thing going to look like in my physical space without me having to building it, all the way down the road, maybe taking a long time. Okay, so when you're starting to think about your CAD platforms themselves, the beauty of the software itself is it is CAD agnostic, so I don't have to worry about only getting SOLIDWORKS files. I can get, steps, CATIA, you name it, right? Whatever it is, good chance you're going to be able to bring it in. There's, I think, 30 some odd file formats that you can fit in there. Another large portion of it is as that it can actually be shared throughout your team. And what I mean by that is if you're already working on SOLIDWORKS Pro or Premium and you're on subs right now, you actually have a free license for Visualize Standard, which I'd just like to tell everybody just so they know, so they can start using it. It's free, right? So if you get on there, basically what Standard has the capabilities for is those static images. When we're starting to look at professional, which I'm not going to cover too much today, is we're looking more at animations, maybe 3D environments, some of that virtual reality stuff that everyone's trying to get a hold of nowadays, right? That's kind of where professional jumps in, okay? But the big thing about that, though, is Visualize isn't actually tapping a SOLIDWORKS license. It is an independent license. So with that free license, I can actually just kick that off to the person in marketing, and I can be creating the one or the physical parts, the assemblies, and then kick it over to them to make this pretty picture, make it physically look like how I would expect it to look on the floor. Okay. So I always like to do this, you know, real or rendered. Just because what we're doing, it is actually rendering. But you can start to appreciate kind of what's happening here, right? I can see the light kind of going through the upper staircase and pushing down into this room, and I'm starting to get really a good feel for what this is going to look like, right? I'm just applying the materials on there. This one again, real or rendered. It's based off the last one, right? We got another rendered. But again, this is kind of alluding to the fact that I can put anything in the background of my image and begin to place it in the location that it's going to be. So, right, I can have this blender, apply my materials, do all this stuff, and then paste whatever image in the background makes sense to potentially my market or my customers. Okay. One thing to note is it's not a brand new software. It's been around for a very long time. Before it kind of came under SolidWorks Swing, it was called Bunkspeed. But if you kind of look at the customer list, there's a lot of big companies that you basically interact with on a daily basis, or, you know, P&G if you're, you know, brushing your teeth or something like that. So a lot of big companies like Ford and the automotive industries are using it as well, though, to really harness that real view graphics. Okay, so if we want to take a look at what it looks like in this environment. So what we're looking at here is actually the Visualize environment. Usually start off bringing in an assembly. And I'm going to use the same ones that Nick was basically using there. So I've got some import options on how I want my materials to be applied, but whatever it looked like inside of SolidWorks is what it's actually going to come across as inside of Visualize. So it's saving me a lot of steps right away. So I don't have to reapply materials or appearances. It's all just already in there. And what we're looking at right now is in a basic mode. And basic is when you're kind of starting to apply materials, appearances, and change things a lot. But when I turn it on to either fast or accurate mode, that's when it starts to do the ray tracing. And the ray tracing is just me, you know, beginning to actually render out what these materials and appearances look like, have the light begin to scatter, reflect, and refract depending on the material I have. And if you ever have a 3D mouse, or if you got one, it actually works inside of Visualize. That's what I'm using right here. But you can see I didn't really do much to it, and it's already looking pretty realistic compared to, you know, a typical model inside of SolidWorks, right? Now, one thing I might want to do is begin to alter some of these appearances, though. Potentially this cabinet has maybe too much reflectivity on the outside, so ways that I can begin to change materials is literally just through drag and drop. So if I wanted to add some more roughness onto the outside, maybe cut down, you know, the brightness of those LEDs over there. Maybe I just want the color of it. I don't care too much about having that actual light showing. I can begin to drop those appearances on there and have them change very quickly and have those changes reflected right away. So I don't have to wait for another build. I don't have to recreate this product. I can just see what these changes would look like real time through this rendering. Okay. And again, we can, depending on how you bring it into Visualize, you can change some of this stuff around, make it look different, and drag and drop some of these properties a little bit quicker. Now, a large portion of what you're doing in here is setting up your lighting environment. So there's a handful of preset ones inside of Visualize. There's also a little bit of a cloud library. But if you have a good enough camera, you can actually create your own HDR environments. Basically, with the use of panorama, you can capture the lighting scenes. But a lot of times it's not necessary. There's really a ton to choose from the start, and it's just drag and drop. So I'm getting all that different lighting, kind of what that reflectivity would look like, just right here. Okay. Now, where you kind of see the break between standard and pro is with the addition of additional lightings. So if I wanted to, again, maybe enhance the lights, add specific ones, more spotlight type things, you can see I actually have the ability to change my brightness or even my color temperature. So if you're trying to set a specific mood for this product and want it to be exactly a certain way, this is where that gets built in. Okay, and once it's actually finally out and rendered, you can get something that looks like this. And it took under, I think it took like 2.5 minutes to make. It's definitely under 5 minutes. I didn't look at the final time, but something like this can be rendered out extremely quickly. Okay, so again, just a couple additional bits here, right? Just to get some pictures in your mind of what it can look like, right? A couple of things we can also set is you can kind of see how it's blurred up front. And that's on purpose. I'm kind of setting my focal depth for the components in the background, and I don't want anybody to, in this case, you're a little distracted by that left edge, but you really want the focus to be on those parts, right? So I can get an actual good look and feel of what it is when it's finally all said and done, okay? Another thing we can get, in this case, there's an actual brewery. It's got that component on the right-hand side, or that box over there. And this is, again, something that's in professional, but it's just called a panorama. So I'm like inside of the brewery, looking around, seeing what things are looking like, and really getting a feel for what it might be on the floor. Okay. So this brings us to more of the PCB side of things. So if I wanted to see, what would I be able to get with that? You've got two paths. So I can either open projects inside of Visualize, or I can actually export them from SOLIDWORKS. Okay, so if you're actually coming from professional, I can export off video stuff. So in this case, I've got an explode step. I might want to show the collapsing of it. I'm going to kick it over to Visualize, and now I can begin to, alter this and make changes to how I want it to actually look. Right. So again, we showed a couple of appearances before, but the library it's extremely extensive. I mean, you're probably going to find things that you wouldn't even think of ever trying to use. I think they even have milk in here somewhere. But in this case, we're going to apply some skin. And I'm just going to pop it onto this whole hand. And I just sped it up a little bit in this case. Because everything else before this was real time, me not making it quicker at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy a couple of appearances here, paste them on there. And again, you PCB users who do this all the time might be like, this guy is pasting them all wrong. That's fine. We're at least just getting a good idea, though, for the speed of which I can update some of these images and get them to where I want them to be, right? Another big thing is I can begin to have, translucent things, glass. Again, when we start to get into some of this animation stuff, if I wanted to show what it looks like, changing the glass from maybe, frosted glass to entirely translucent, I can do that, right? I can add an animation for it to go from this kind of frosted look down to a completely clear look, right? So if I wanted to truly highlight that PCB board once it's closed, that's a good way of doing so. Okay. So again, if we go ahead and take a look at that finalized video here, right, we can see how it's kind of a little bit frosted, but as it closes down, it really becomes clear. I can see directly inside of there and get a clear look and feel for those components. Okay. So again, just a couple of additional renders that I kicked off. Once you start to change around some of that lighting environment, some of what that might look like, you can really get it to look exactly how you want it to in the feel of it, especially when you start to change all the components accurately and change the roughness of them all. Right, we can begin to highlight that PCB board a little bit more and give you a good look on what it'll be when presented. Right, so really, why Visualize? Why do you care? Why is it important to you? The team at SOLIDWORKS has a mantra of fast, easy, fun. I've always had a long-term saying of if it's not fun, don't do it. If you got to do it, make it fun. This is kind of one of those products where it's easy to pick up, easy to use, and that kind of goes in that fun stream. But it is also extremely quick. So you kind of saw me rendering a lot of those things real time. The performance of getting that finalized product is very quick, especially across the board from some of the competitive softwares. And getting up and running on it is extremely easy to do. So it's not like a whole brand new CAD platform you're learning. It's just, hey, here's the things that you need to apply, and it's kind of a 5-step process, right? So bringing models in, adding appearances, adding some lighting, setting that stuff up, and then rendering it off. right? So again, I don't want to get on Visualize Professional too much. Just again, if you have Pro or Premium, you already have access to Standard. Please use it. It's fantastic. But Pro, if you wanted to get some more interior stuff, so like that brewery scene where I went around, that's an interior panorama. And you can begin to actually have exterior VRs, which would allow me to interact with the part a little bit, move around it, and create some of those realistic